Now, Space Force building a brand new governmental institution, like, and then being on the inside track of that. What is that like? What kind of deals are you having to, like, internal conversations, conflicts, egos? Like, what goes into building out a new defense arm?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a little bit of personal tie to this. My grandfather is about to turn 105, and he's a World War II veteran. Sadly, one of the few that we have remaining here. Incredible person. Grew up dirt poor, farmer in Missouri, no training. Got sent to Europe in World War II and had to figure out, how do you get planes back up in the air? Well, you kind of figure that out. I mention him in this because it was shortly after that he was part of the Army, and then the Army Air Corps, and then the Air Force split from the Army. So like we've got a family history in this sort of how services sort of birthed from other services here. I had the privilege of, I was briefly outside of government working at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab after having worked a long time for a bunch of secretaries of defense and running their investment committee. And I was working, and this was in the Trump 1 administration, taking people and leaders, the cabinet officials through a world where space was going to be not just government, but commercial and government and civil, all three combined, and with the commercial potentially growing in the most significant way, and it's certainly proven out to be true. Well, a couple of those things that came out of those conversations is that we were able to start the President's Direction Space Command as a military command to go operate in space, which we hadn't had before. It was always, we had regional areas that we thought about in the globe, but like, what about one of the most predominant and future areas of space? Second thing, as you allude to, was a Space Force. So we have it as part of the Air Force historically. But as time would go on, the Pentagon is like a boardroom. So you're always trading and doing asset allocation, which I did for a number of years, trying to come up with the most ideal sort of how many things you put in your rucksack, so to speak. Do I want more satellites or more aircraft or weapon systems? All these choices. And at the time we were doing 750 to 800 billion. Now it's close to $1 trillion of allocation times 5 years. So big numbers to go allocate them. And one of the things that we realized was that space wasn't getting the attention, the equipping and the resourcing and the training and the focus on acquisition that it should have. And so it shouldn't be what we call in DC a bill payer, something that if you have a budget crunch, what's the first, second, third thing to go? It's so important to everyday lives, GPS or otherwise, and certainly the military. Even in recent conflicts, you're hearing the president and the chairman and the secretary talk about space being one of the most initial important areas of domain to protect and to operate with. So it's essential. So Space Force stand-up allowed us to be able, and me on the technology and the engineering side, to be able to think about not just old space, how to integrate commercial space. We all know, Starlink and SpaceX and adjacent capabilities and the communications, but now there's space exploration, space communications, and maybe a world where there's going to be operations out there, and AI in space, and there's sort of burgeoning there. I would say it's never easy to start something new, which is why I titled that paper when I left Defying Gravity. It wasn't just a cool name. It's Defying Gravity is super hard. A lot of strength, tenacity to overcome things. Starting a new service, starting something different, totally the same.
And given the amount of ego and personalities in DC, when you published that paper, what backlash did you get, and what support did you get?
So we decided, okay, so when I watched a lot of people come and go in DC, and I've had the privilege to be from President Bush, all the way to today. So Republican, Democrat, great, good colleagues on both sides that are trying to fight national security, which is a common interest. It's a global interest. It's really important. And so sometimes when people depart the government in general, we'll talk about things that are like, this is how government should operate. And I and my team, we always thought about that and said, well, you know what? If you knew how to do it, why didn't you just do it when you're inside a government? And then all of a sudden you leave and now I'm an expert in what the government should be doing. And while I appreciate it's all very good intention, we all want to make things better, we just took the opposite approach, which was, all right, we're not going to pretend like we know how the future should go. Let's just articulate a playbook. These are the 4 pillars. that we strategically were working on to go start a service, bring commercial tech into the government and national security space, and then we're going to give you not fluff, but like real world examples. How we first check into Android, how from the government, first check into Starlink and SpaceX and bringing that in, all kind of listing those things so that we took a retrospective in a strategic framework. And I had no idea how it would be received, but it got picked up. It was on national news to go talk about it. I had people that were high school, college, grad school, in the military, civilian and military, reach out via email. Somehow they got my phone number, LinkedIn, other places, just to say, like, this is exactly what we want to do. Thank you for kind of laying out a framework for it, and then not just pontificating, but real tangible examples of how the team did it and we were able to accomplish it. So I think generally a great reception. Now that's not to say that some of those, if you kind of go back and were to scroll the tape or look at the camera back at each of those, I got a lot of resistance. All those new things, that's not the way we used to do it. Or where did you get approval for that? It was a challenging, people sometimes will give government folks a hard time. Why can't you just do new things or be faster and better? And it's a legitimate thing to say. But it is so hard and intimidating for people to try to do that because there is such resistance inside, outside, lobbying against change. But if you're a startup founder, an operator, an entrepreneur, it's the same kind of stuff, right? It's tenacity, it's drive, it's passion, it's vision, it's focus, and you can get things done. So all I have to say, I think it's generally a great reception, good inspiration for folks, and it's a bit of a roadmap and a guide stone for what we're doing at Arkenstone to be able to keep that same mission and focus it now on the outside in partnership with the government to do industrial and infrastructure.